Hello everyone, welcome to Let's DevOps. I am Sumit and today we are going to discuss about different data types, parameters, variable in Azure Bicep. Further, we will learn how effectively we can use them. If you are new to Bicep, don't worry, there is another video which I have created for beginners which has a step-by-step procedure how we can set up Azure Bicep and you can create your first Azure Bicep template. You can find the link in the video description. In this tutorial, first we'll understand different data types available in Azure Bicep. Second, we'll discuss about the parameters, and third, the variables. And with that, we'll understand how effectively we can use them in our Azure Bicep template. So let's get started. Now let's discuss the different data types available in Azure Bicep. So in Azure Bicep, we have multiple data types. The first is array, integer, string, boolean, object, and also we have a secure string to store any password or sensitive information. And these data types we can use in our parameter while defining the parameter or while defining the value for a property in a Azure Bicep. Now let's see the data type syntax. So for array we need to use array keyword, and this is a parameter that you are defining, and all the value in the array we define in the parenthesis. So it's kind of a square bracket, and if it is integer you just need to put without a single quote, but if it is a string value you need to put it in a single quote. For boolean we have a bool, for integer we have an int keyword, for a string we have a string, and for object we need to define under the curly braces. And here to declare the object variable or a parameter we need to use the object keyword. Now coming to the secure string, if you want to make any parameter or a variable as a secure, then you need to use the add secure before the defining that or declaring those variable or parameters. Okay. Now let's discuss about the parameters. Parameters helps to provide information to Bicep template during the deployment. So with the help of parameter, we can make a very flexible and reusable Bicep template. Let's take one example. Assume that I have one property called SKU and it has a different value for different environment, like for dev, test and prod, it has a different value. So how we can declare? So we can declare that as a parameter, and for a different environment, we can pass a different value, right? For assume that for production, you may need high SKU, right? And for dev, you need a lower SKU. So based on the parameter itself, you can pass the different value to a different environment. Now let's see how we can declare the parameter. To declare the parameter, we need to use param keyword followed by the name of the parameter and then the type. So what is the type of that particular parameter? And the type, as we discussed before, that it can be array, integer, string, secure string, or object also. We can also provide a default value to the parameter. So just you need to put the parameter, param keyword, the name of the parameter and then the type, and after that with the equal sign we just give the information of the parameter or the value of the parameter. Now if we want to declare a multiple parameter and its value, we can create a parameter.json file, and there we can, under the parameters keyword, we can define multiple variables or multiple parameter value, right? And each value based on that you pass the information, it will pick it up, if whether it is string, integer or a boolean, based on the value which you pass, it will understand. So this is how we can create a parameter.json file. If you notice here, we have the parameters. Under that, this is one of the parameter name, and then the value we are defining as a test string. Simply for integer, we are just passing the value as a 4. For the boolean, we are passing as true. For array, we need to define in a square bracket, and for object, we need to provide in a curly bracket, right, which has the key and value. Now let's talk about the decorators. We have decorators which we can use in a parameter. So decorator helps to basically restrict, or maybe it will give some suggestion about the parameter or its value. So assume that if you have a description decorator, it means that you can just declare what are the definition of that particular parameter or a value or a variables. Minimum length, it says that here it is 3. It means that you can only create or we can only pass a value which is at least it has 3 characters and maximum it has a 24 characters. We also have allowed decorator, which gives the information about what are the value you can pass as part of the environment, right? Here if you see in the environment, I can only provide the value to dev, test and prod. If you provide some different value like staging, then it will throw an error. So there are some couple of more decorators you can find. I'll just put the link in the video description. Now let's talk about the variables. So we can use variables to simplify our Bicep file development, and the variable name also cannot with the same name of param or a resource or a module name. To declare a variable, we can use var followed by the name and its value. So as by the name itself you understand that variable is to store some information. So then how it is different from parameters, right? So mainly the variable we use to create some runtime value, like as for example, if I want to create a storage account with some unique prefix, then I can use some functions to create the unique character, and then I can suffix with the storage account parameter value, and then once it's run, during that time it will generate a new storage account name, and then that you can use it in our Bicep template deployment. So it will basically create a unique storage account, and it's just an example which I have given. You can use the variable to maybe create a multiple, or maybe you can use variable to concatenate multiple other strings or values, and then you can use as per your requirement. So coming to the use case, now coming to the demo. In this demo, I will use the use case to create a storage account with the parameters and the variables. So in this template development, we'll try to make use of the parameters and variables, and we'll also understand how different data types we can use in any Bicep template so that you can effectively use as per your requirement. So now I have taken this Bicep template as a reference because this is the first Bicep template which we created in our first video. So from here we will take it forward. So first of all, if you notice here, I added a resource to create a storage account, and here I have just hard coded some of the value. So which is not very efficient, right? So assume that if I want to create another storage account, then manually I have to commit here and then update it. Similarly for other properties like SQ and access tier. So if you want to make it this template more flexible, then what we need to do, we need to parameterize it, right? We need to create a variable or a parameter. So let's create a parameter for each property one by one. So for location, which I have already created, and let's create for the name. So for the name, I'll just use the param keyword, then the name of the storage account. So if I say that st account name, and then after that I have to provide the string is the type, and after that I can maybe provide some default value. So assume that I just wanted to put it here. Okay, so this is the for storage account. Similarly, we can also create it for the kind, and then also for the SQ. But if you notice here, for SQ we have a curly braces. It means that we need to create an object for this, right? And for array we use the square bracket. So let's first create for the kind as well. So here I will use the params, and then the kind, then the type is string, and then the default value, let's keep it as a blob storage, right? Okay, and once we created this, we can update this value with this parameter. So I'll just replace this, and then so if you see this error also gone now. Okay, so we created now a parameter, two parameters, storage account name, and then the kind value. Sorry, the name is not right, so I'll just update this. Okay, so now let's create the property also, or create another param with a type object, right? Now let's create a parameter with the type object, and that we will use it for the SKU, right? So I'll just say the param and then the SKU properties, and then here we will select the type as object, and if you want to declare some default value, we can just add it here. So the name and then followed by the value. So assume that if I want to keep a standard underscore GIS itself. So this is how we defined the object. So assume that if you want to declare some other property also, you just need to add a comma and then use it. Similarly, we have the property also, so let's add it for that, and then I can maybe add a param and then we'll say the st property and then the type again I will pick the object and then the curly braces, and here it has the name is exists here, so I'll just use this, and then its value is again 2, right? So these are the two property which we created as a parameter, right? So I'll just replace this in here. Okay, and then for property just update it as property. Okay, so this is how we declare, maybe for a string and then for the object. Okay, now let's talk about the decorator. So I think since we discussed about the decorator, so decorator is to, maybe if you want to define some definition about your variable or a parameter, in that case we can use the decorator, and also to restrict some value, like assume that if you want to restrict your location cannot be East US, or maybe it cannot be in the Europe or maybe the East, you want to specify some list of location, and then in that case you use the decorator. So let's take an example. So first we'll use a description. Here we can maybe put some information like location to give only East US and East too, right? So this is one of the decorator, and then if you want to just only allow specific value, then we need to put the value. So maybe the East US, and then another one is East US. I think it should not have a comma. Yes. Okay. Let's see. So we should have, since we are putting as an array, so let's try to put as an square bracket. Yeah. Okay. So assume that if you here, since we only allowed these two variable, two value, and if I assume that if I give the not 0, Europe, maybe add it here. So here if you see, it gives the error itself, because it is expecting either the East US or East US 2, but we have given the North Europe. So this is a kind of a type validation we have in Azure Bicep. Okay, so let me revert it back. So this is one decorator which is kind of allowed. And if you assume that if I want to give a storage account with a minimum character of 3 or maximum of 24, then that also we can define using the decorators. So like, let's say the min length maybe 4 and the max length 24. So assume that if I give something with maybe less than 3, then I will get an error, and if something I give it more than 24, then I should get error, right? So this is what. Okay, so this is how we use a decorator to give the description, to also restrict with some of the value, and then min or max length. Let's talk about how we can use the variable. Now let's assume that I want to create a storage account each time with a unique name, and so basically I have this storage account name, but I want to also suffix with some random key. In this case, what I'll do, I'll create a variable, and under that I will define that to create a random key, which will again concatenate or suffix with the storage account name, and when it runs, it will always create a new variable name, storage account name, and then it will run and create a new storage account. Okay, so let's start. So assume that I have new st to deploy, and that I want to use it, first of all, the existing storage account, right? Lower here, I'll just give this account name. After that, I need to suffix, right, with some to lower key, just capital to lower, and then here I need to generate a unique key. So it should be unique string, and maybe I'll put it scope so that it should not have the same the characters again, and then I'll use the ID, and here I will just close it. Okay, so with this, what it will do, it will first lower down if the storage account has some uppercase, and then it will suffix with some unique string. Okay, and now this variable I'll further use it to in our storage account resource. Okay, so this is how we can make use of variable. Assume that if you want to concatenate with variable as per your requirement for a different parameter value, then that also you can do. So it's all you can customize as per your requirement. Okay, so now we have declared all this parameter and a value inside the Bicep template itself. So for the scalable and better flexibility, let's create a parameter.json file, and under that we'll define all this value. Okay, so for that, what I need to do, I need to create a new file called, or maybe I'll just give a name as a storage.parameters.json, and here what I'll do, I'll just define all those value in it, right? So for that I need to use there is by default some APIs. So what I'll do, I'll first copy the API, and then here we have the parameter. There we can define the name and then its value. So first is our let's start with the location. Okay, so first I'll give this location, and then the value, maybe the STUS as of now. So this is a string, and then similarly what I'll do, I'll just put paste here. Maybe since we need to create it for location, storage account name, and then the kind, and then the SQ property object also. So we need to create an object as well. So there are a couple of string and then object we need to create. So this is st account. So what we have is, sorry, I need to go here. I need to pick this name, and then I'll put it here, and maybe I'll just use this value. Okay, so fine, and here you can see some error. What is this? Okay, so duplicates here. So I'll just remove it now, and for let's create it for kind value, and it is also a string as of now. So here I'll just give this value, and then the value is cloud storage. Okay, and then the other is we have an object, so let's create that way. So value is okay, so first of all let's define this as a parameter, right? And then this is as a variable. Okay, so to define that, value. So you have a property and values. Since we have a object to it, so I'll just create here the SQ property, and then the value is for SQ the name, and then so we need to put it in double quote, right? So name and then its value. So value is standard GLS. Okay, and then we need to close. Okay, so this is for SQ property, and I can again copy paste this part from here. Okay, so now this is for SQ, and I'll script for ST property. So this is for storage account property. The value is steer, and then the cool. Steer. Okay. Steer, and then this is cool. Okay, so I need to have a comma here, and I think this one, and then one more I need to close. Okay. So I think our parameter file is also ready, and that we can here. So you assume that if you want to also don't want to use the default value, just you can comment this. I assume that I don't want to use any default value. I just need to comment it, and if for some cases if you still want to use the default value, you can leave it as it. So I think the storage parameter is ready. In some cases what we do, we also create a parameter file based on the environment, and then we'll try to put the value in it. Like assume that if I have to create it for the prod, so what I'll do, I'll just create storage dot parameters, and then dev dot json. Okay, and then here I'll just copy paste everything, and as per this dev environment I'll just put the SQ or kind, because for dev and prod it can be different, right? And while creating or while running this bicep template, we need to call this parameter file, right? So for new AG deployment, when we pass the template file, we need to also pass the parameter file. So let's run that, and then we'll see how it goes. Okay, now let's run the template, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so first since we created this storage bicep, and then this is the parameter, so while running this template we just need to call first the storage bicep template, and then also we need to call the parameter JSON file, so that it will pick the value from the storage account parameter file. Okay, so for that we have new AG resource, resource group deployment, and then let's give the name as of this is a demo, and then we have to template file, and then here we have to give the storage. Okay, now we have given the name of the template file, and after that we have to give the template parameter file, right? And this is storage. Okay, storage account parameter, storage account parameter, and then the name of the resource, which is I'm using a demo storage. Okay, let's run this and then see how it goes. So it takes some time, and for that we can go to that our Azure portal and see. So now if you notice, the this got successfully created, and it has some prefix with some random key here. So let's go to Azure and see how it is. So let me first go, and then let's go to the storage, demo storage account, and under that I'll go to the overview. And if you notice here, I have created a couple of them. So it's all creating with some random key, which is getting suffixed. Okay, that's all for the demo. I have also uploaded the demo code in a GitHub account. You can find the link in the video description. So in this tutorial, what we learned, we first learned what are the different data types we have in Azure Bicep, what is the parameters and what is a variable, and further we learned how we can use effectively in Azure Bicep while giving the demo for a storage account. So thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, kindly share and subscribe to my channel, and thank you. Bye bye.